Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, Marla and Christine, it really was an emotional gut punch. We all in this industry cover a lot of people who are grief-stricken. We cover violence day in and day out. But I think what really got me today, and at one point I had to wipe away a tear, was to see small children, little kids comforting each other. They're learning about grief and death because their beloved teacher is no longer with them.
It was 4 o'clock in the morning. A Glendale firefighter walks into an LAPD station with what seems like a routine request. He needs officers to check on his wife. Says he can't reach her. The officers who responded to that welfare check would discover something that shattered an entire community. Inside the couple's North Hollywood home, they found 55-year-old Mayra Jimenez dead from blunt force trauma. An axe nearby, and the man who had spent nearly 2 decades running into burning buildings to save lives now stood accused of taking one. This is the story of how a marriage that looked perfect to everyone on the outside ended in unimaginable violence. A story about 2 people who dedicated their lives to serving others. And one moment that destroyed everything. Right now, hit pause for just a second and drop a comment. One word. How does this story make you feel? Angry? Confused? Heartbroken? Just one word. Let's see what emotion this brings up in all of us. I'm genuinely curious. Before we talk about how this ended, you need to know who Mayra Jimenez really was. 55 years old. 3rd grade teacher at Wilshire Park Elementary School in Koreatown. But if you ask the people who knew her, she wasn't just a teacher. She was the kind of person who changed lives. Sarah McNeil, Myra's close friend, remembers her like this. She was always smiling, bringing warmth into every room she walked into. She stayed after school at recess to give struggling students extra support. She called her teaching partner on weekends to brainstorm lesson plans. She went from shop to shop looking for the perfect supplies to make her classroom exciting. One parent, Karen Chacon, says Myra transformed her family's life. When her daughter was going through a serious health crisis and couldn't attend school, Myra created a custom learning plan so the child could continue learning from home. She didn't have to do that, Chacon said. She wanted to. That was who she was. She fought fiercely for her students. She changed lives. But Myra's impact went beyond the classroom. She was a union representative with United Teachers Los Angeles, fighting for better conditions for teachers and students across the district. And in her personal life, she was an ordained non-denominational minister who officiated weddings throughout Southern California. Her website said she customized every ceremony to capture each couple's personality and love story. The woman who celebrated love for a living. Think about that for a second. He was also a huge Dodgers fan. The kind of person who brought joy everywhere she went. Students said they loved how she made learning fun and accessible. Her colleagues admired her genuine passion for teaching. One of her current students, 9-year-old Benjamin Michael, would later say through tears, "I didn't even want to come to school because I wanted to see my teacher, but I already know that she's in my heart." Now let me tell you about Andrew Jimenez, because this is where this story gets complicated. 45 years old. Firefighter paramedic with the Glendale Fire Department. And this wasn't some new recruit. Andrew had been serving since April 28, 2008. Almost 17 years of running toward danger while everyone else ran away. He was considered a distinguished firefighter. He'd fought the Pacific Palisades Fire, one of the most challenging blazes in recent California history. Family members posted photos on social media showing Andrew in his dress uniform at his promotion ceremony. Myra standing right beside him smiling. That promotion had happened several months earlier, and family had celebrated his achievement. Think about what that means. For 17 years this man saved lives. Pulled people from burning buildings. Performed CPR. Comforted families in their worst moments. He was a hero by every definition. His colleagues trusted him. The community trusted him. When you called 911, Andrew Jimenez was the kind of person you wanted showing up. And here's what makes this case so unsettling. Neighbors told investigators they never saw anything unusual. No fights. No violence. No warning signs at all. One neighbor, Camila Cabrera, would later say, "There's never been any violence or domestic violence or signs of that at all." I'm really surprised. A member of the teachers' union who attended Andrew and Myra's wedding back in November 2014 said he'd never seen any signs of conflict between them. Not once in over 10 years. From the outside, they looked like they had it all figured out. Two people dedicated to public service. Living a quiet life in North Hollywood. Married for more than a decade. So what happened? If you're still watching, you're invested in understanding this. And that matters. We're going deep on this case, but I cover stories like this every single week, trying to understand not just what happened but why. Hit that subscribe button right now. Because these conversations matter and I don't want you to miss the next one. November 2014. That's when Andrew and Myra got married. Photos on social media show the couple embracing, smiling, looking like any couple in love. Over 10 years together. Think about everything that happens in 10 years. Holidays. Birthdays, struggles, victories, building a life together. Andrew worked 24-hour shifts at the fire station. Myra poured her heart into her students. They lived in a modest home on Satsuma Avenue in North Hollywood. By all accounts, they were a normal couple navigating the challenges of demanding careers. But somewhere between November 2014 and January 2026, something changed. The question that haunts this case is simple. What? Because unlike many domestic violence situations, there were no police reports, no restraining orders, no documented history of abuse, no neighbors calling 911 about fights. Nothing that would have made anyone think this marriage was in trouble. And that's the terrifying part. Because if the people who lived next door didn't see it coming, if the friends who attended their wedding didn't see it coming, if Myra's colleagues didn't see it coming, then what were they missing? Or maybe the better question is, what were Andrew and Myra hiding? This is where everything gets complicated. Where public opinion splits. Where people start taking sides. According to attorney Jose Romero, who was initially retained by Andrew's family, something happened in the final hours before Myra died. Something that, in his words, triggered everything. Romero released a statement saying his office was in contact with law enforcement about a diary belonging to Myra. A diary that Andrew allegedly read moments before the homicide. A diary that, according to the attorney, verified infidelity. Moments before. Now let's be very clear here. Police have not publicly confirmed the existence of this diary or its contents. This information comes solely from the defense attorney's statement. And interestingly enough, that same attorney later withdrew from the case. But if the diary exists, if Andrew did discover something written in his wife's own handwriting that shattered his understanding of their marriage, it raises questions about what happens to the human mind when betrayal and rage collide. Does discovering infidelity explain violence? Well, never. But does it help us understand the psychological state someone might have been in? Maybe. Here's what we do know for certain. According to LAPD Lieutenant Guy Golan, from what detectives determined very preliminarily, this was an isolated incident of domestic violence between two adults living together. Isolated. One moment. One night. Something broke. Stop for a second. I want to hear from you. Not just a word this time. A real thought. Does context ever matter in cases like this? Can you understand someone's breaking point without excusing what they did? Or is there a line that, once crossed, makes context irrelevant? Comment below. I'm reading every single one. Tuesday, January 21, 2026. Around 4 in the morning. Andrew Jimenez gets in his car and drives 10 miles from his North Hollywood home to the LAPD's Northeast Community Police Station in Glassell Park. He walks in and makes a request. He needs officers to do a welfare check on his wife. Says he hasn't been able to reach her. Think about that for a moment. He drives 10 miles to a police station to request a welfare check on his wife, who's at their home. Officers respond to the house on the 5600 block of Satsuma Avenue. What they find is a scene of horrific brutality. Mayra Jimenez's body with injuries from blunt force trauma. An axe at the scene. The medical examiner would later determine she'd been beaten to death. Neighbors watch in shock as investigators carry out boxes of evidence, including 2 large rifles. Crime scene tape goes up. Detectives swarm the quiet residential street. One neighbor tells reporters, "He's supposed to be protecting us. What's come of this world?" At 4:25 in the morning, Andrew Jimenez is taken into custody. Booked for murder. Bail set at $2 million. Meanwhile, news is spreading. At Wilshire Park Elementary School, administrators are preparing to tell students that Miss Myra won't be coming back. Crisis counselors are being called in. Parents are getting notifications. And across town, investigators are beginning the painstaking work of piecing together what happened in that North Hollywood home in the hours before Andrew drove to the police station. The LAPD's Robbery-Homicide Division takes over the case. They conduct interviews, review videos, process the crime scene. Their investigation revealed that Andrew and Myra were in a marital relationship and that this was an incident of domestic violence. On Friday, January 23rd, prosecutors file formal charges. 1 count of murder with a special allegation, use of a deadly weapon, an axe. If convicted, Andrew Jimenez faces 26 years to life in state prison. Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman releases a powerful statement. The domestic violence death of Mayra Jimenez is a devastating reminder of the persistent scourge of intimate partner violence in our communities. No one, including those sworn to protect others, is above the law, and we will hold the defendant accountable for this horrific crime and bring justice to Ms. Jimenez and her loved ones. Andrew appears in court that Friday afternoon. His arraignment is continued to February 19th. He's ordered to remain jailed without bail. The Glendale Fire Department places him on administrative leave immediately. Fire Chief Jeff Brooks releases a statement. Our condolences are with the victim's family and loved ones. We are prepared to support those impacted by this tragedy, and we are also ensuring our firefighters and staff have access to support resources as they process this loss. Because this tragedy didn't just impact one family. It rippled through 2 entire communities. The teachers and students who loved Myra. And the firefighters who worked alongside Andrew for 17 years. Friday night, January 23rd. Wilshire Park Elementary School in Koreatown. The crowd is so large it overflows into the street. Hundreds of people. Students. Parents. Teachers. Friends. All holding candles. All trying to make sense of the senseless. A makeshift memorial grows on the sidewalk. Flowers. Prayer candles. Photos of Miss Myra smiling. 9-year-old Zoe Archila Kellum, one of Myra's students, tells a reporter through tears, "I want her to still be here with me." When asked how she felt when she heard the news, she says 2 words, sad and angry. Another student says, "How am I going to do anything without her? I really looked up to her and I'll never forget her." Parents share memories. One says, "She was one of the best teachers we had. She was always smiling and we want to remember her like that." Cecily Mayart Cruz, president of United Teachers Los Angeles, speaks at the vigil. Myra was an activist, an advocate, a leader, a friend, and most of all a beloved teacher. Her love for her students was paramount, and she worked hard, stayed late, and always led by example. The Los Angeles Unified School District releases a statement. "We are heartbroken by this loss. Mrs. Jimenez was a beloved teacher, colleague, and friend, and she made a lasting impact on our school community and the students she served." Think about what it means to make that kind of impact. To have hundreds of people show up on a Friday night to mourn you. To have children cry because they'll never see you again. To have parents say you changed their families' lives. That was Mayra Jimenez. So how does this happen? How does a man who saves lives for a living allegedly take one? The truth is, domestic violence is rarely as simple as it appears. According to LAPD Lieutenant Guy Golan, this was an isolated incident. Not a pattern of escalating abuse that neighbors witnessed. Not a situation where police had been called multiple times. This appears to be a sudden eruption. A moment when whatever was happening beneath the surface exploded. Now, if the diary story is true, if Andrew did discover evidence of infidelity, that would explain the emotional trigger. Betrayal in a long-term relationship can cause profound psychological distress. But here's the thing. And this is important. Thousands of people discover infidelity every day. Every single day. And the overwhelming majority don't resort to violence. They grieve. They rage. They cry. They separate. They divorce. They go to therapy. They find ways to cope that don't involve harming another human being. So what separates those who channel pain into healing from those who channel it into violence? That's the question that haunts cases like this. Is it mental health? lack of emotional regulation skills, a sense of ownership over another person, a breaking point that varies from person to person. Understanding isn't excusing. Context isn't permission. But if we don't try to understand how this happens, how can we ever hope to prevent it? If this conversation is making you think differently about domestic violence, about the warning signs we miss, about the people we trust, then share this video. Not for views, but because these conversations need to happen. Someone watching this might need to hear that there's help available. That violence is never the answer. Share it. As of late January 2026, here's where things stand. Andrew Jimenez remains in custody without bail. His next court appearance is scheduled for February 19th, where he'll be formally arraigned on one count of murder with a deadly weapon enhancement. The investigation is ongoing. Police still haven't publicly confirmed details about the alleged diary or its contents. That remains part of the defense narrative, not established fact. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office is moving forward with prosecution. If convicted, Andrew faces a minimum of 26 years to life in prison. His career as a firefighter is over. His freedom is likely over. And Myra Jimenez is gone. Her students will never have her back. Her colleagues lost an advocate. Her community lost someone who celebrated love and brought joy to others. The children she taught will grow up remembering the teacher who stayed late to help them, who went shop to shop finding perfect classroom supplies, who made learning fun, who fought for them. But they'll also grow up knowing how her life ended. And that's a weight no child should have to carry. This case forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths. Domestic violence doesn't always look the way we expect. It doesn't always involve someone with a history of abuse or violence. Sometimes it hides behind closed doors, in relationships that seem perfectly normal to everyone watching from the outside. Sometimes the person you trust most is the person in the most danger. And sometimes the people who are supposed to protect us are the ones we need protection from. According to District Attorney Hochman, too often cases of domestic violence go unreported and have the potential to end tragically, as in this instance. I want to urge anyone experiencing or witnessing domestic abuse to contact the Los Angeles County Domestic Violence Hotline. That number is 800-978-3600. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, reach out. There are resources. There are people who can help. There are paths forward that don't end in tragedy. And if you're struggling with emotions that feel overwhelming, rage or jealousy or betrayal that you don't know how to process, please seek help. Therapy, crisis counseling, support groups, talking to someone you trust. Because what happened to Mayra Jimenez didn't have to happen. There were choices made. And choices have consequences. Thank you for watching this examination of a deeply troubling case. If this video made you think, made you feel something, made you want to be part of the conversation, please leave a like and subscribe. And please share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. This is a safe space to process difficult emotions and have hard conversations. Remember, if you or someone you know needs help, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24/7 at 1-800-799-7233. In Los Angeles County, call 800-978-3600. You're not alone. There's always help. There's always another way. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe and take care of each other.